Hello guys, I am Ben Morrison. I'm 23 years old and I own and run Morrison Lawn Landscape. If you've been following the YouTube journey for a while, you'll have seen the ins and outs of what it actually takes for me to run and grow this small business. I get a lot of questions on a weekly basis, which I'm absolutely humbled by, and the fact that people come to me and ask these questions and ask for advice. I do try my best to answer them directly, get back to messages, and I've even jumped on phone calls with people to allow them just to pick my brain. So we thought it would be a good idea to have a Q&A video just so we can answer more of these generic questions and give everyone the answers. So we put a story out on Instagram and we asked you guys for some questions. We're going to get straight into it. So first question from Stuarty. What's been your favourite job you have done? Trying to think back about how many projects we've done over the space of time we've been going. It's hard to sort of pinpoint one exact project. There's been some that I've quite frankly hated, not enjoyed at all, and some that we've really enjoyed. Probably the main one and the biggest sort of transformation, interesting job, albeit quite a simple project, was the Tom and Towel project. Again, if you've been following the YouTube journey, you'll have seen the transformation that we did at Tom and Towel over the space of a few months through the winter as well. And it was really nice to have a blank canvas, a complete blank canvas to work with. We built the fence right the way around the property. We installed a new lawn, new edging, new beds, new gravel paths. We were given the budget and go ahead to just completely redo the garden, not to how we saw fit, but the customers looked to us for quite a lot of inspiration. It's not very often that we get the budget to completely revamp a garden. There's often bits that have to be prioritised, but this one was a new build property and we were allowed to come in, redo the whole thing, and it's been a great one for the portfolio. So Tom and Towel project is definitely up there for one of the best. Connor said, where would you like to see your business and your role within 5 years' time? So we've seen a lot of growth in the past few years, and one thing I've learned growing the business is how much more of a machine it becomes the moment you get more staff, more equipment, more machinery and stuff. I guess I've always dreamt of a big business, but I've never quite pinpointed where I want to be. Very much now focusing on trying to simplify and systemize the business so that everything doesn't stop with me. Right now, I am, believe it or not, the bottleneck of this business because I haven't got the systems in place to be able to step away from it if I want to. My goal right now isn't to step away from it, but very much aware that if I got hit by a bus tomorrow, the question you've got to ask yourself is, would the business still operate if I wasn't here on a daily basis? The guys are very self-sufficient, they go and do their own things, but all the organisation, all the jobs, the pricing, the scheduling, materials, that's all with me. And until we systemize that and delegate that so there's a bit more involvement from the team, that it doesn't all have to revolve around me, well, that's definitely what we're sort of aiming towards doing. So within 5 years' time, I'd like to hopefully have someone sort of working under me, maybe like a general manager or something like that, or someone I can delegate to, or someone who can run the sort of operation side of things so that I can go out there and do the important task, which is getting business, getting sales, building rapport with customers, creating new opportunities for work. I feel like we get caught up in the runnings of the business, and that's just natural. In the early days of the business, you're doing everything. You're doing the invoicing, the paperwork, the repairs, the maintenance, the work, the expansion of the yard. There's so many different things that you need to do. But one thing I've learned is the importance of delegating to people. Without people, I wouldn't have been able to expand to the size we are now, and I certainly know the importance of it if we want to expand further, which we do. To how big, I'm not actually sure. Sometimes I want to have this big business with multiple teams, employees, and quite a big operation, but other times I want to keep it small and niche and make sure that the quality that we put out there remains the same, because I guess the bigger you get, quite often the quality drops. And I guess as long as you put the systems in place to make sure that the business operates and runs well, then we should be fine. But one thing I have really learned is it's very easy to go and get multiple vans, multiple pieces of equipment, go and get a heap of employees and go and try and make it work. But there's so much more behind the scenes that you need to think about and consider. I would really recommend growing as slowly and as steadily and as sustainably as you can, because if you run before you can walk, it can cause a lot of stress, a lot of issues. There's so much involved in the day-to-day running of the business, which I can get into in a further video, but this is why I guess I've got such an urge to try and systemize things and make things automatic and I guess less reliant on me, if that makes sense. I do ramble a lot if you haven't noticed, so I'm going to let Enrico tell me when I ramble. Thomas says, how did you learn to drive the digger? Self-taught or training course? Great content, by the way. Thank you, Thomas. Appreciate that, mate. It's funny you say that, because I still remember to this day being on a project, a driveway project for a customer that we still maintain and still have been doing work for in the recent years. Having my friend's digger on hire and being unable to correctly operate it and trying to grade back the old gravel driveway. Ended up just digging holes. It was all uneven and bumpy. Kind of looked okay from the top, but as soon as you got out of the machine, you just noticed the sort of Himalayas that you've created. Cairngorm's maybe a bit more relevant, but I very early on appreciated the skill that it takes to drive and operate a machine and create a good job with it, because it is a skilled task. Anyone can jump in and dig a hole. That's no problem. You can pretty much learn the controls relatively quickly, but to be able to operate a small machine as well. Now bear in mind, if you can operate these mini diggers, you can go and operate the big boys. On important jobs, I would often hire a machine and I would get someone in to operate the machine. I would just subcontract someone in to come and do the digging work so I could focus on the actual runnings of the job. The quickest answer I can think of without getting into detail is time in the seat. Time in the seat is something you'll hear me say a lot. It's a phrase that I was introduced to by a friend who is also in a similar business, and it answers a lot of questions and a lot of issues, I guess, that you come across in life and in business. You can be taught how to use a machine, you can be shown what the controls do, how they operate, what they do, you know, how to use them, but until you get in the machine and feel for it yourself, you aren't going to pick that up like overnight. It's something you've just got to keep doing. You've got to keep getting in the machine, you've got to keep using it on jobs. A lot of it was uncomfortable. I was never comfortable in the machine because I was thinking, this is the job, this is my responsibility, the outcome is on me, so I was never always thinking about like then and now what I'm doing with it. However, over time, getting out my comfort zone, getting in the machine, doing the job, often getting the digger out and doing it roughly and then going over it with rakes to try and tidy it up. It's hard to remember when I got better on a machine, but just as you operate the thing over time, and bear in mind, we weren't using the machine all the time. It was, you know, every now and again we'd have a project we need to dig out, etc. The one thing that really excelled my operator skill, if you guess, and I'm still not that great in the digger, I can operate it and I can grade back and what have you, but getting my own machine was a transformation, because a lot of jobs were smaller jobs that would require you to hire a machine, and by the time you hire it, pick it up and do all that, it wasn't even worth quoting for the job because it wouldn't make financial sense for me to go and hire a machine to go and do the job. Getting my own machine allowed me to have the machine in-house and then go and do these smaller jobs, and naturally having your own machine, you take on more work with it, you're in it more, and since having my own machine, my confidence and ability in the digger has scaled significantly. But a digger course or a digger ticket would definitely be beneficial. A lot of the whole operating process is knowing what to do and how to do it, you know, where to dig this or where to put this pile, how to do it, but until you actually get a feel for the machine, then it's one of those things, you just need to get in it and do it. Jump in and learn the hard way. Westy says, what would be your best tip for growing a company? ADHD, yeah. I touched on it there in the first or second question. Delegation. You cannot grow without other people. There's only so long that you can go doing everything yourself. When I took on my first employee, I was the age of 19. The thought of taking on someone else, taking on that responsibility, trying to keep them busy was daunting. But it took me to get out of that comfort zone, stop playing it safe. I feel like a lot of today's society is about sort of playing it safe and not taking risks. And everyone's circumstance is different. But taking on my first employee allowed me to essentially double my output. There was 2 people, there was double the output, okay? Over time, as I invested in more and more equipment and tools and machinery and services and our knowledge and, you know, just my whole ability, this has genuinely been built very organically, very naturally and steadily. Although we have, you know, seen significant growth in the short period of time we've been doing it, it's just taken a lot of repetition, taking the risks, being out my comfort zone more times than I can even recall. Nothing good ever came from the comfort zone, so you've got to take that risk. If you're a one-man band and you're too busy as it is, you're run off your feet, you've not got the time of day to do anything, you surely have the capacity to take on someone. A lot of it is mindset. Your mindset is a really important thing, and it takes a lot of training and moulding your mindset to be able to go and do these things, and just getting out your comfort zone, taking risks and seeing what the output is, because 9 times out of 10 the risk is nowhere near as bad as you think it is, and the reward is often way better than you ever thought it would be. But to try and answer it frankly, do a good job, be reputable, okay? We've got a great name around the area. I push so much for reviews, client reviews. We do a good job. I've always done a good job. I've always strived to do as best a job as we can. I've got a bit of like OCD. I like things to be right. We literally just looked at a fence today that we did last year, and a lot of the wood on the fence was crooked because of the heat. It's shrunk and it's all twisted and what have you. The customer didn't get in touch with me. I seen the fence and I knocked on the door and I said, listen, I'm not happy with the output here. I'm not happy with the quality of the wood. I'm going to come and replace these boards. That was off my own back because I care about it. I care about the quality and, you know, what we're trying to build here. There's a lot of cowboys out there, so you really need to separate yourself from the competition as such. What has allowed me to grow my business quickly is my circumstance. I don't have kids, I don't have a house, I live at home with my parents, so I have very, very low responsibilities in terms of personal life, which, if you had kids and a wife and a house to pay for, it would be very much harder for you to take risks and take that leap into going self-employed and, you know, taking on that piece of finance and, you know, taking on that financial risk and taking on the pressure. I'm very much aware of that, so that's something that's got to be considered. You know, I'm 23, got my whole life ahead of me, maybe not at this rate, but my circumstances helped me so much, and a lot of people think that their youth holds them back, and I used to think that a lot. Oh, just when I'm older. I've come to know that my age is to my benefit. I'm young, I'm ambitious, I've got, like, I guess, a new insight to things. There's a lot of things that I do that I've seen businesses that have been around for years and years and years, older businesses that don't implement or don't do. Just having that new, fresh look to things can be beneficial. So I hope that answers your question. Did you find anything specific which contributed to your social media growth? And do you find you get more customers through social media or word of mouth? I manage social media for a local fencing groundworks drainage company. Shameless plug. For your first order, Ben M5, and for any order after that, Ben M, and you'll get 10% off. Good stuff. From early days, and this is going back to the last question that was just answered about bringing a modern touch, social media is something that I've leaned on since the very beginning. I've always posted before and after photos of my work, of my business, you know, consistently every week, even if it wasn't a before and after photo, a picture of the van, a picture of the job in progress, just actively in people's faces, not annoyingly. You know, I didn't spam my Facebook page, but I consistently posted on there, posted on Instagram, got my name and my brand out there. The more people see your name, your business, your brand, your work, customer testimonials, reviews, get that all over your social media. It's a repetition that brings in the work and brings in, you know, that time when someone goes, oh, I need a landscaper. Oh, Morrison Lawn Landscape. I see their stuff on Facebook all the time. You're not actively trying to get the work right then and there when the person views that post or views that before and after or transformation or something. You're trying to ingrain the name of your business into their head, so when they actually go one day, I need a landscaper, who's the first person that comes to mind? So regardless of what it is, get everything out on social media. I just don't think there's been an easier time to get work for your business when everyone's on social media. It's free. It's so easy just to put a post out there, and everything's so accessible now. So social media definitely has been a friend of mine in growing the business. But then there'll be people who argue that they've never posted, they never advertise, and they get work all the time. They're flat out busy. So it isn't just social media. You see behind me, branding. Every van is branded, every van looks the same, it's colour coded. I've got it on my hat, got it on my t-shirt. You need to try and get your branding everywhere, as much as you can. Sean's just coming in to paint the office. Good lad, Sean, thank you. Just pretend you don't hear any of this. Now, word of mouth is, of course, still a massive thing. Oh, my friend referred you, or you did some work from a friend, or my mum, or my dad. You know, it's certainly a big factor. So I guess that's why people build businesses. They don't advertise and what have you, and they're still busy. But if you're a new and growing business and you're actively looking for work, you have more teams, you need more work, you need more food to feed the machine, then you need to actively start looking for work, which is what we've kind of had to do now. We're still busy. We still get steady inquiries. The more teams you have, the more work you need, and the more you need to actively go out and try and get it. Ethan's given us 8 questions here. What would you do differently if you had to start again from scratch? I went and got a job somewhere. I don't have it on me, but if I knew the business was going to be to where it is now, I definitely would have got 2 phones. Okay, now I know that sounds trivial, and I'm just going to start with that because it's the first thing that came to mind. I'm at the stage in business now where everything has been over time built on my phone, my numbers across all the vans and everything. There's often times on weekends where customers get in touch on a Saturday and a Sunday and they ask you about inquiries and stuff. I'm very much a believer that you've got to live and breathe your business. It's not a job, it's more of a lifestyle, and I feel like you've got to be all in or all out. Otherwise, I guess it depends what you want. Depends what you want from your business. So to some people, being able to, you know, answer phone calls on a Saturday and a Sunday, it's fine, it's no problem. You know, all you think about is business, you're a workaholic. I am very much kind of like that, but I also like my own time and space. And if I don't switch off, it can often lead to you burning out. And although you're not doing anything on a Sunday work related, you're often thinking about it, your brain sees it, you see the messages from people, you check your emails, phone calls, everything. So separate your work from, your personal life. And what that will lead to then as well is if there ever becomes a time where you need to step away or you're going on holiday or something and you need to pass your phone to someone, your right hand man, your foreman or whatever, here's the work phone, here's all the details on it. It's not got your personal life on it. If you are, and if you're in early stages of business, it's not too late to do it. If a lot of people know your number, just use that number as your work phone and then get yourself a new phone and try and slowly, this is what I'm trying to do, I still carry both of them around with me all the time because I haven't sat down and properly transitioned over, try and transition the personal life onto that new phone. But what would I do differently if I had to start from scratch? It's very difficult to say because you learn as you go, right? And hindsight's a wonderful thing. I'm trying to think what I would have done differently. I guess try not to worry as much. I've always been quite a particular character, and I used to sweat the small stuff and the details and how to do this, and that seems really difficult. And the more you do things and the more you get, I guess, exposed to it, you just become numb to it, and it's just like, oh, that's a thing. That's, I'm used to that now. So I guess time in the seat allows you to, over time, not let things bother you. What would I do differently? From very early on, I always had to buy second-hand vehicles. Some of these vehicles are second-hand. In fact, they're all new. The beaver tails are second-hand, but I've always had to buy second-hand vehicles from a start. And then you've got to start out somewhere. But I've spent so much money fixing and maintaining vehicles. People ask me now, like, well, these are all on finance. Of course they're on finance. Even if I had the money, I probably wouldn't go and spunk 25 grand on that, 50 grand on that, and 35, 40 grand on whatever, or whatever that was. Can't remember, because it's a depreciating asset. But there's been financial decisions that I've made that have been silly. But again, you've got to learn somehow. Impulse buying, I don't really know. It's quite a difficult thing because I am here today due to the actions that I've taken over the past few years. So I'll maybe try and come back to that one. I'm a bit stumped on that, to be honest. I'm sure there's a lot, but I just can't really think. Alfie says, most effective advertising or way to get clients you've found. So we've done from a very early on. I used to print flyers. I used to put them through doors. Day one, when I was younger, I used to go around knocking on doors and saying, look, do you want your grass cut? And that's something you can still do now if you need to go out and work. If you've not got any work, you need to pull your finger out and go and get it. Drop the ego, oh, I'm not going to knock on doors. Go and do it. If you need the work, go and do that. Social media, again, really important. Have a brand. If you can get logos, be professional. Have a uniform. Branding on here, branding on the vans, branding on trailers, branding on equipment. A lot of this stuff costs money, yes, but it's an investment, and if you can afford to just even get some basic uniform, and if you've got a van or whatever, even a magnetic sign, just so people know who you are. There's so many things you could do. You get paid advertising on Google, on Facebook. You can go in magazines. We're in a Spotlight magazine. I'm not sure how much work comes from that, to be honest. Google My Business. So if your business isn't on Google, then the majority of times people move to an area and they go into Google and say landscaper near me, and if your name doesn't come up, it's potential work that you've lost. So getting new clients, first and foremost, and this isn't the quickest way, but obviously do a good job. Word of mouth spreads. Morrison Lawn Landscape, they're really good. They were really professional. They answered all the queries that I had. I wouldn't hesitate to use them again. So doing a good job, being professional, polite, and just being genuinely helpful to people. People value that, and that's one thing I love and hate about business is people, because if you get a bad client, it can really ruin your day, your week. But there's so many nice people that I've met in my journey in business, and so many clients that I've built a relationship with that I want to go above and beyond for, and it makes it all worthwhile. So that's one thing, if that was a question here somewhere. What do you like the most about the business is people, is bringing value to people, bringing enjoyment to people, and happiness, and whether it's my dealings with them or how we service them, or the job that we do. Ethan says again, what's your long-term goal with the business? Franchise, sell, scale? It's maybe a mindset thing, but franchise or going like national has never really been a thing for me, because I guess it's maybe the small town mentality. There is bigger businesses out there like ID Verdi and Ground Control and all this sort of things, but I feel like the personal touch comes away from that, and whether for right or for wrong, because if you can build multi-million pound business that changes your life, then fair enough. But right now, as it is, it still feels very personal, and it's it's my name, and it's a very personal one-to-one thing with clients. And I guess depending on what you want, I feel like every business, regardless if you want to leave it or not, should be built in a way that you can step back and the business should run itself. Now, if you don't want multiple crews, multiple vans, if you just want to be self-employed, maybe have a few employees, go and turn out the work, have a lifestyle business, I think is that what they call it, earn a good wage and constantly be on the tools and working, then you can do that. But I feel like I want to build it in a way that I can build something, put the things in place, the systems in place, so that it can run by itself with the people in it, and I can step away and go and maybe, indulge in something else. There's so many other things I'm interested in. I am typically interested in like property and I guess just like passive income streams. My goal is to have this as a cash flowing business so that I can then pull cash out of it to go and invest in longer term future plans. I'm very much aware you've not got to take your eye off the ball too soon until there's so much things that need to be improved in this business. We've done well so far, but we've got a long way to go and a lot more to learn. So I'm not planning selling or exiting, but I think I'm definitely trying to build it in a way that I don't have to be here all the time. Ethan says again, what gear was worth the money early on? So when I first started out, and this is I guess to the really new people, bought a multi-tool strimmer and I bought a lawnmower, and then I seen the second-hand Husqvarna blower on Marketplace. I remember asking my uncle, because he was working in the area it was for sale, can you pick it up? And he said to me, why do you need a blower? Why are you wasting your money on that? What's wrong with a brush? And how wrong was he? And I've told him this many times. A leaf blower is definitely a must for tidying up jobs afterwards, the ability to go and blow leaves, debris. It's a very all-round versatile tool. Now you can't cut with it or do anything like that, but that sprung to mind straight away because I remember that however many years ago, it would have been now 7-8 years ago. I still remember being questioned about my financial choices, and to this day I don't regret it. In my area, which is a lot of countryside, we have got a lot of bigger properties, and when I got my first ride-on mower, it cost me £200. I got an absolute bargain from the person that I bought it from, and I still really appreciate that to this day. The ride-on allowed me to take on the bigger properties and cut more grass, cut more efficiently, quicker, and it was always a dream to have a ride-on piece of machinery. I remember the days that I used to go online and look at like Husqvarna ride-on mowers and like dreamt about the day that I had one of them on the job. Now, not to sound like a snob or a but probably couldn't really justify it, but I could go and buy a few of those right now, and it's just funny to see how far you come. And although it felt like so far away in the future, at that point in time it feels like yesterday that I used to think that. What I'm trying to get from that was the ride-on was a really big jump for me. The zero turn mower, we then invested in a John Deere zero turn, and that completely transformed the business in a sense of like my output. I was able to take on bigger jobs, get them done quicker. It opened up my ability rather than saying, oh, that job's too big for me, I don't have the machines for that. The zero turn, with it being fast and agile and what have you, the maneuverability of the zero turn machine, if you haven't used one, you should definitely try and use one, and if you have got one or if you have used them, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. All of our grass cutting is priced, so we're on a fixed cut. When getting the zero turn, I was getting these jobs done quicker, so I was essentially earning more money because it allowed me to do more jobs or have more time in the day. Yeah, the zero turn mower was definitely a very good investment. So many other ones I could list, but we're going to move on. Ian says, do you want your business to stay local, or would you like it to be in the future to be national? I guess I've already touched on that. The thought of having a national business is pretty cool, to have your name all over, but to have a national business and then to sustain that, I don't really know. It's just out of my mindset at the moment. It's hard enough to run a business of this size, never mind having multiple locations across the country. Never say never, I don't know. I'm really focused on trying to get this business as it is, similar size to as it is, as efficient and streamlined and as systemized, and just really trying to improve the whole overall service, the workplace, the environment, and just try and build something meaningful. How do you track hours and job performance from your crews? Now, this is something that we really lack on, and I really lack on. I'm not really good at all the back end stuff. It's just not where I function or thrive. To track the effectiveness isn't something that we've just neglected. I guess we've always been sort of profitable. We've never had like months where we've been in a negative due to lack of performance or whatever. I guess treading water or surviving is probably the word, but I guess we're doing okay so far. There's always a lot to improve. We've now incorporated Big Change, which is a CRM and a scheduling software. We haven't got it properly set up yet. It's nearly there. We need to get the guys familiar with the tablets and everything. Basically, we'll have a tablet in each van, which will have your job sheets on it, time sheets, customer details, risk assessment. You can track jobs, progress. So that will allow us to hopefully, get more efficient, streamline, see where we're losing money, making money, etc. And yeah, it's definitely going to be something that I hope transforms the business from what I've heard from people that use it, and also just to try and stop the chaos that that is included every week of me running around trying to organise jobs, turning up in the morning and going like, this is what we're doing today. This is what I mean about trying to systemize a business so that it's not all about you, because if the day I don't wake up for whatever reason, albeit if it's just a short period of time, the guys don't know what they're doing. Okay, so it's something that I need to work on. Don't be fooled by all this stuff. Okay, this stuff is all trivial. It's working right now, it is, but it's not working efficiently and effectively. Building something that runs and operates by itself without you there is way more impressive than these things behind me. Tips for landing commercial contracts when you are young and new. So commercial jobs isn't something that we've really delved into much. A lot of people like to come away from the domestic stuff because it's, I guess, on each domestic job you've got their client, the property, etc. So if you have like 100 of them, you've got 100 different clients you've got to deal with. Whereas if you're doing commercial contracts, you might have one client and multiple properties. However, I've always found it hard to delve into that. The commercial contracts that we have always just been directly contacted. You know, we've been contacted by them to go and quote for the job. Whether that's through word of mouth or they've seen us online. That's something I really need to track, is where our clients come from. But to actively go out and tender for these quotes is something that still to this day boggles my mind. I don't really do well with all that stuff, looking at the screen and trying to do tender lists and square meterage and all that. It's just something I've neglected. Some more commercial clients would be good, but definitely what we've got so far has just been from being approached and asked to quote for a job. We maintain 4 retail parks, 1 in Aviemore, 3 in Inverness. That came along because we were approached by the main contractor to be a subcontractor for them and maintain the sites. I guess, again, having that presence, having a brand, being on social media, being on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, being on Google, just getting out there is what has led to me getting this sort of work. But it doesn't happen overnight. That's the one thing you've got to consider. This has been built up over, which is 7 years, although the first few years was just pocket money essentially. I was just working by myself. We've only been in proper business for 4 or 5 years maybe. Even at the early stage I was still building that presence and slowly growing organically and building a customer base, and I guess that has been a big factor into where we are now. A dry throat. Oh, I feel so hydrated. Can you pick up my ton bag for the right price? You know who you are. If you were 17 or 18 again, what investments or things would you have done differently? This is another hard one. Where do I start? I don't know. I'm just trying to think. Like, it's hard for me to answer that because what I did at 17 and 18 has essentially got me, for right or for wrong, to where I am now. I guess the whole point of you asking me these questions is so you don't make the same mistakes as I've done, but I just can't really pinpoint what I would have done differently. Because you only know what you know, and you don't know what you don't know. So a lot of these things I've learned over time and by doing it and being, having time in the seat, I guess. I'm going to try and come back to you. I'll try. Investing in self-development courses probably would have, but the thing is, these things cost money, and a lot of the times that's not what we have at that age. I wouldn't have dreamt of spending that money. Even just having the money to go and, that's the last thing I would have thought about buying was a course in self-development. Learning as you go is certainly probably the way that most of us do it. It's just going and doing it, learning from your mistakes. One thing I would have done is just tried not to, and I say, if I knew this at the time, was, and I'm sure I've been told this at the time, but you don't think like that. It's just don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to f it up, because it's the fear that will hold you back. It's the fear of failure that holds back a lot of people, which I completely understand, but the ability to do something, to fail at it, to realise why you failed and go and do it again is just priceless in my opinion. You then know what works, you then know what doesn't work, and you can go from there. You can improve. It's all about improving. Nothing's perfect. I've always sort of strived for that perfection. One thing I've learned in recent years, I've touched on in the videos, is I have ADHD. I figured that out last year for the first time in my life. That my whole life I've suffered with ADHD. I've had ADHD, which has been I guess a leading cause for my success, but also a lot of downfalls in my life. I am now medicated. I'm formally diagnosed ADHD, and I am now 6 days in to my medication. I'm not going to get into that right now because it's a whole different. But learning about myself and why I am the way I am and why I think what I think and how I operate and what I struggle with and why I struggle with it, learning about myself has been transformational in life and in business, because some things that work for other people don't work for me, and you always compare and you always look on social media and say, oh, he's doing that, he's doing this, how can I do it? But everyone's different, everyone's got their own issues. This is one of the main reasons that I do social media, is because there's so much nonsense out there, there's so much out there, and it is one of the leading causes for, in my opinion, depression, mental health, anxiety, laziness, all these there's so much negatives that come from social media, I'm trying to be a part of the positive side, because there's so much positivity, there's so much good content out there, educational content. I want to be a part of that. I want to be someone that provides value and doesn't just fill their news feed with nonsense, because I have had a mixed relationship with social media over the years. So I mean, it doesn't really answer the question what I would do differently, but just don't be afraid to fail, and don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't just be the dumb one in the room. Don't go into a room and go, oh yeah, I know this, or pretend that you know something that you don't. If you don't know, you don't know, and just drop the ego, drop the bullshit. If you don't know something, just be receptive to information. If someone's doing something that's working and it's getting them results, the chances are it's something you should probably be doing too. But yeah, just the ability to listen and be a sponge and just learn off different people. You don't have to do exactly what that person tells you to do, but take their advice, take whatever their experiences are, and use it. Even just use a chunk of what they tell you and use it in your own life and apply it and just see what works for you. Like, not everyone believes in the same things, but be open-minded, be receptive to things, new opportunities. Definitely the fear of being, laughed at or ridiculed, or feeling stupid or whatever, or just don't let that bother you. Like, it's still something I kind of struggle with now and again, but if I don't know something, I don't know it. Like, you've just got to learn as much as you can. One thing that's free, right, and it's one thing that's completely transformed things for me, is the ability to just learn and gain knowledge from people. Podcasts, like self-development, your health, how to improve your health, value your health and value your body, because at the end of the day, it's all you've got. Money, anything else around here is absolutely worth all unless you've got your health. I stopped drinking 18 months ago. It's just not something that aligns with my values. I don't look down on anyone who drinks. I see the positives to it, but I see a lot of negatives. I'm not going to get into that. I'm not exactly where I want to be with my physique, but I'm very much aware of my health and trying to improve things. I've recently bought a Whoop, which will track my sleep and everything like that. Finding value in health, well-being, and your mindset is something that will transform your life. And the earlier you recognise that, and the earlier you drop all the bullshit, I'd say even like all the partying and all that sort of stuff. I'm still a very social person. I like going out to the pub and socialising with friends, even without a drink. But I feel like people go on that bandwagon for so long and then they get lost. Okay, so I'm not here to preach about anyone's lifestyle or anything like that, but finding value in your health, mindset, and your personal development is something that will excel your life and your business. How do you handle last minute weather delays with regular clients? Now, when I was on the tools and it was just me and someone else, if it was a really wet day, I'd probably have room in the diary to then change or whatever, okay? It's very seldom now that we get weather that really affects the ability to go out and cut grass. And the chances are, if you're in the UK, it's going to rain quite a lot, especially in Scotland. If you're working by yourself or with one other employee, it's not the end of the world if you take half a day and go and do something else that doesn't generate revenue. But let me tell you, when you have multiple vans in the yard, multiple pieces of equipment, like all in finance, all this payments that you've got to make, you've got wages that you need to guarantee people aren't going to come and work for you if you say, I've got half a day here for you. If it rains, I'm not going to give you a wage. If it rains, we're out there cutting grass. If it's snowing, we're out there putting posts in, because you've just got to do it. You've got to get out in all the weathers. The weather is something you can't change. Get a jacket on. One thing I do try and do is give the guys as much of a PPE and clothing, and I've spent thousands and thousands of pounds on PPE, clothing, waterproofs, gloves, because I feel like you've got to look after your staff. But the business can't afford to say, it's raining today, let's just go home. And again, if it is torrential and it is affecting the work and the quality is dropping significantly, then yes, but that doesn't happen very often. There's been days where the rain's on and we just got to come in, get jackets on and go for it. If you've got sharp blades on your lawnmowers, professional equipment and machinery that can deal with wet weather and wet grass. I guess this is more grass related because you've got regular clients. You can still do it. It might take a little bit longer. It's a little bit more messy. You might have to blow a little bit more, but you can still get good results. That leads me back to that question. What I would have done differently when starting out is, although you're not a full-on business yet, and you might be working by yourself, you might have only a couple of days in the diary or whatever, from a very early stage, if you want to grow something that like this, with multiple teams and a lot of kit and equipment and what have you, start acting like a business before you're a business. You'll attract what you say, sort of thing. Yeah, I don't know how to describe it, but if you start acting like a business before you are a business and start putting procedures in place that seem silly and trivial because I just work by myself and all these things don't really matter right now, The more you implement to act like a bigger business, the sooner you will become a bigger business. So many people that say, oh, I've got this guy, he's on like part-time though, and he's like, I only give him a few days a week, and I can't get staff. It's like, are they employed? Oh no, they're just like cash in hand, or they're self-employed. It's like, to build something that's sustainable, again, you've got to ask yourself what you want, but all of my guys are on the books. There's occasional that subbies come in. Everyone who works here, everyone who's got a uniform is on the books. I guarantee them a wage, okay? I don't just say, oh, you've got 30 hours this week, you've got 45 this week. You know, they're guaranteed a wage. I need to guarantee them that. Otherwise, you're not going to... People need job security. So again, acting like a proper business. You know, proper businesses don't just go, oh, there's not much work for you today, so I'm just going to have to send you home. Like, there's been times where the guys are in here, not earning any money, but they're busy doing something else. Like Ed cladded the back of the shed, Ed and Aaron, they cladded the back of that shed, you know, get them splitting logs, doing other things, maintenance, keeping them busy, still keeping them effective. They're not earning the business any money, but they're still getting a wage. That is something that will come over time. You've got to be able to walk before you can run. You cannot take someone on full time when you're not that busy yourself. It's just simply the way it is. But the more you can start acting like you are a proper business, again, the sooner you will manifest that and become one. So it's so important to learn, and so important to just not be afraid to fail. Figure out what works, figure out what doesn't. Learn from people who have done it. Like, a lot of people ask the question, how do I do this? How do I do that? How? It's 9 times out of 10, it's who, not how, okay? Who has done this that, you know, I can learn off how to do that? Or who knows how to do this? Or who can I ask that question to? Surrounding yourself with people who've been in the industry, who are ahead of you, or where you want to be, trying to get into those circles, add value to them so they can add value to you. I've got a small group of friends that I lean on and I bounce questions off, and I have regular discussions about business, and it makes me feel not alone, because it can be a very lonely place. Being able to bounce off other people and having that sort of support network around you is very important. Networking, learning off other people, all these things, this is what will help. That's the guys now. Anyway, that is the majority of the questions. There's still a few more that need to be answered, but I don't want this video to go on forever. We will do another one of these in the future, but in the meantime, I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've taken value from this video. It's something we've been meaning to do for a while now. Like I say, I always try and get back to questions and messages that I get, which I am very, very grateful and humbled to receive. I don't just say that lightly. It still baffles me every time when someone takes the time to send me a message and then they get a shock when I even reply. So yeah, it continues to feed what we're trying to do here, encourages me to do more. If you have enjoyed this video, if you have taken value from it, please drop your comments down below, drop any thoughts and any future questions you might have. Make sure to like the video, share it with someone that you think might take some value from it too, and if you could, subscribe to the channel, turn on that notification bell, and you won't miss another video. And on that note, remember to stay hydrated with Holy. I'm going to annoy so many people with that.